let me start by thanking the unbelievable attendance that we've had here the last couple of years. I'm thanking the fan base, the alumni, the student body, everybody that came out and supported this program here. In the last 3 home games, we've set 2 of the top 4 attendance records for single game attendance. And I need to just start by saying thank you and what a difference it makes. And when you look at the number of recruits that were in the state that were at this game Saturday, to come here to see this environment, to hear their reaction, to talk about the excitement, the energy in the stadium, to see all the former players down in the far end zone, especially right before half when Bryson Abraham returned that interception back, to see them dancing around, jumping around, to see their excitement and energy. I just thought it made for a great weekend, and I don't want to take that for granted, and just let everybody know how much we appreciate as a program just the support that we've received here this year through the first half of the season. It's been unbelievable. Our players feed off it, and it has created a great environment for us as a program to not only play in, but also to recruit to, and for people to have the opportunity to come experience what Louisiana Tech football is all about. So I need to start by thanking everybody for the support that we've been given the last couple weeks. It's great to win. It's always great to win, but especially in an in-state rivalry game, it's great to win. I think Lafayette has a really good football team. I think they do a good job, and they've had some success when you look at what they've done. That's donuts, Dave. That's donuts. I think they've done a great job of that program when you look at the Sun Belt championships they've won, the success that they've had, to have the opportunity to play them here at home and to come out with a win. It was a good feeling for the program. I look at it offensively. I thought it was kind of that same blue collar attitude, that blue collar workhorse type of day. We came out, I thought we averaged 6.3 yards per play. I think it was 8.8 yards per attempt. We had 27 first downs. We had 0 sacks. We had 100% touchdowns in the red zone. We were 3 for 3. We were 46% on third down. I thought offense, it was a very solid performance and a good workman's type day. And I think some guys on the offensive line played really well with 0 sacks. I think Jeff Driscoll continues to play really well. Trent Taylor had some really big plays in man coverage, and Marcus Gaines was able to really step up and play well. And then there were some guys that really had some good individual performances, but overall I was pleased with the offensive performance and the things that we were able to do. Defensively, I thought outside of a couple fundamental things, I thought it was a really solid performance, again, from a defensive standpoint, to get 3 turnovers, to score on defense, to create a positive field position for our offense, to control the line of scrimmage and to do what our defense was able to do. I was excited the way they played. I didn't like the opening drive when they went right down the field and we kind of lost contain. But the great thing about it was, with that opening drive, nobody got rallied, nobody got rattled, nobody got shaken. They came off the field, started talking about, Coach, I got to get outside. That's on me. They knew the mistake they made before they got to the sideline. And then to see the offense take the ball and have a 10-play drive to start the game, to answer, to make it 7-7, and then the defense get the stop, and then the offense had an 11-play, 96-yard drive, I believe it was, that went down and scored to go up 14-7. And then the third drive that I thought was really impressive was to come out. Not only did we score with 5 seconds left in the half on the last play of the half, but to come out in the third quarter and get the ball and to go 77 yards in 3 plays and to go score. I think that 14-point swing in about a 2-minute period. Everybody says the most important time in a football game is the 5 minutes before halftime and the first 5 minutes of the second half. And I think if those were the important moments, then I think that's really what put that game away, was the 22 points scored in the second quarter, but then also the 7 points scored right at the beginning of the third, which kind of made it a couple-score game and made it a lot easier to call plays both on the offensive and defensive side. Defensively, I'd just like to get a couple things cleaned up and get, but I think they're playing really hard right now, and they're playing with some confidence. The special teams scored. When you can score on defense and score on special teams, it's a pretty big pretty big advantage when your offense doesn't even have to step onto the field to put some points on the board. We were able to do that with our special teams, with the punt block team. Paul Turner had a great individual effort on that team. I think Joe Sloan did a great job in scheming that up, putting it together and putting Paul in a position where he could make a play. And he went out and blocked the punt. And then for Jonathan Barnes, we hit a 41 and a 50-yard field goal. The way he's playing right now, from a field goal kicking standpoint, when you looked at some of our woes last year in the kicking field goal department, I think he's really done a nice job. And I think our Dirty Dozen is really starting to play with some speed, some effort, and some confidence a little bit. You look at guys like Jared Kraft, Lloyd Grogan, Russell Ferris. A lot of guys on that team right now that are really doing some good things, that are not starters on offense or defense, but really starting to play a major role for us in the kicking game. Was nice to see. Cedric Cooper, go through a couple of those guys, but we've had a lot of guys that are really doing a nice job. Probably the only really negative takeaway that I took out of the game on Saturday were the personal fouls. After coming back and watching them on film, I mean, I don't really think there was anything malicious on either side. I thought it was a really clean, hard-fought football game on both sides. But I think in a in-state rivalry game, I think the officials took the approach that they were going to throw early flags and call offsetting penalties. And I think there were 4 double offsetting personal foul penalties. And you go back and really watch the film, I don't feel like any of them on either side was really malicious or with a negative intent. I think it's part of the emotion of playing the game. A lot of games you get into, the officials get in between and go, hey, knock it off, play football, and you go on your way. With that being said, it also was part of a double foul, and then had the personal foul for the spiking the ball at the end, which dismissed him from the game, and he had to leave the sideline. Checking with Gerald Austin, the head of officials for Conference USA, that suspension or that where he wasn't able to play only goes for that game. It does not carry over. The only 2 things that carry over from one half to the next game would be targeting or fighting, and wasn't involved in either one of those. Like I said, it was 2 offsetting penalties on one, and Kenneth is an emotional player, and he hadn't been in the end zone, and he was getting frustrated because I think Lafayette did everything they could to take him away. They ran everybody to him, and that's why Jeff was so open on so many of the reads that he made and able to pull the ball and run around the corner. So Kenneth will be available for the entire game this weekend. Getting into that, the game for this weekend, UTSA. Everybody wants to look at their record and their stats. They are a 1-4 football team right now. I have great respect for Coach Coker, the success that he's had, the program that he's built. When you play this football team, you always know they're going to be physical. They're very fundamentally sound, and they are a tough, hard-nosed football team. They're a very emotional football team. They play with an awful lot of passion. They are 1-4 right now, and if you look at them statistically, you can't sit down and put them at the top of the conference or in a lot of national statistics, but they have played Arizona, Oklahoma State. They have played Kansas State, which was really a 7-3 ball game at half. Should have been 10-7. UTSA, after having the opportunity to watch that film, because we played them right after they did. I thought they played them in a heck of a football game. And then they played Colorado State. When you look at it, they lose a nail-biter there, 31-33. So you look at them, even though they're a 1-4 football team, they have lost to 4 teams really that are all 4 ranked in the top 20 when you look at them. I think this is one of the better defenses that we've played. And I say that because watching the film, I think they've got some great players. They're big, they're physical. They run a scheme very similar to Kansas State, very fundamentally sound, very physical. I think they've got 3 preseason all-conference players on the defensive side of the ball. 96 the defensive end, 32 the linebacker, and 21 the corner are all really good football players. Just really impressed with their overall team physicalness and the way they play the game. You watch them play, the only really comparison that we can make on team that we have the opportunity to play is when you look at them against UTEP this weekend. Their defense had 11 3-and-outs against UTEP this weekend. And really, they win a lopsided football game this weekend, and I believe missed 3 field goals, or it would have been even worse. I think they've got a really good football team. I think when you look at them offensively, they give you a lot of problems with their tempo. They're a fast pace, high tempo, running 80, 90 plays a game, high tempo, a lot of formations, unbalanced looks, motion looks, shifts, quickness. They do a lot of things to give you problems. They really simplify you defensively because of all the different looks that you're going to get and the way that they give things to you. They've got a running backs averaging over 100 yards a game, really solid player. I think their offensive line is very fundamentally sound. Again, they're big and they're physical up front. I think they've got wide receivers that are explosive, and their quarterback is very smart. They run the system. To do everything they do, he has to be very smart. He spends a lot of extra time in that film room, I promise you, and over there learning everything that they do, because it is a very complicated offense because of the number of things that they do. They ask him to be the distributor of the ball and to kind of run the train, and he does that, I think, very, very well. But they have a very good offensive football team, very good defensive football team. I think the best defensive football team we've played to this point when you look at them. They definitely have the best front four when you look at the front four across the board. I thought Kansas State had the best interior players. I thought that FIU had the best defensive ends. And I think right now UTSA has the best of both worlds, because they're very big and physical up inside with their tackles, but their defensive ends are really good players. And then with what they do schematically, their special teams, they've got a freshman right now that is number 1 in conference in kickoff returns. He's number 8 in the country. He's a true freshman. He was the state long jump champ in Texas. As a high school athlete, a great athlete, does a great job. I think this is a really good football team. It's going to be a heck of a challenge. We're excited to get back into conference play and going on the road again this week. And with some of the close games we've lost on the road, we understand how difficult this is going to be. So I hope our players are enjoying their academic day today on Monday, because certainly when we come to work on Tuesday, we're going to have our hands full this week in a huge challenge to go down to San Antonio to play in the Aladome Bowl, in the Aladome, Alamo Dome. I'll get there. I'll get there. Alamo Dome. There you go. What questions could I answer for anybody?
What did you say to KD after the game? I mean, I know he was frustrated, but as a senior leader, probably isn't the best message to send when you're ejected from a team.
No, Kenneth was probably more hurt and more disappointed than anybody in the stadium. I think it's a hard thing, as proud as he is and as hard as he plays, to have to be escorted off that field. I was in here in the office Sunday morning at about 7 o'clock. He came walking into my office. We had a chance to sit down and talk for about an hour. It's not who Kenneth wants to be. I think if he could take it back, he'd take it all back. As I said, none of them were of a negative intent, you know what I mean, or malice. I think he's just a very passionate player, and he's going to have to learn to control those passions and emotions to play this game. But I think he was embarrassed for the way he played. I think he feels like it was the worst game that he's played since he's been here. He tried to do probably too much, and he let his frustrations of what Lafayette was trying to do to take him away affect the way he played the game. I think he very uncharacteristically missed cuts, was trying to look for the 40-yard run in every play rather than just being able to hit it, get positive yards, and do what Kenneth does best. And I think he got frustrated, and I think that was part of his frustration. And I think that the 2 penalties, obviously, the 2 personal fouls. And like I said, I can't look at either one of them. He didn't do anything from a poor intent. You know what I mean? He's guilty of being passionate. And from that standpoint, we got to learn how to manage that a little bit better.
Skip, where would you assess your team is right now as you get ready for the trip down to San Antonio on Saturday?
Where we are as far as what we can be.
Or just the development where you're at right now?
We're a work in progress. I think we've we talked a lot about coming into the season. We have a lot of guys that have played a lot of football. We have a lot of experienced players that are coming back from last year. When you look at our secondary, our linebackers, our defensive line, a lot of people that have played. Same thing on offense. When you look at the number of receivers, our top 3 receivers were back, our tailbacks back, and a lot of the skill players. But as I said, you don't evaluate a football team on the 11 that play on just your starting 11. I think you have to evaluate a football team on your starting 22 because injuries are part of it. We had lost our top 3 centers that we came to camp with. And so all of a sudden you can have, we can talk about Kirby Wixon, returning starter, on all these watch lists, conference, preseason, he's played in 1 game, and so all of a sudden he's not playing anymore. So it's going to be about your depth, and from that standpoint, we're very young. A lot of very young players that need to step up. I think we are a work in progress. We still have a ways to go. We're doing some good things. We're getting better, but we're certainly not where we need to be or where we want to be. I think as you look at a college football team and a college football season, it's not necessarily always about just winning and losing the games early in the season, but it's how much improvement you make from the beginning of the season to the end of the season. And that's what we are constantly trying to do, is continue to improve. And if you can find a way to win a game, don't take that for granted. Find a way to win a game, and you can learn lessons off of it. You can grow and get some of your younger players experience and become a little bit better fundamentally. Then it was a productive week for you, and that's kind of what we're trying to do. But we still have a lot of things we got to clean up as a football team on both sides of the ball.
On Saturday, you mentioned the defensive playing more simplified approach. Can you just explain that more as opposed to, you mentioned blitzing, not really doing too much of that. What changed and why?
Why we simplified what we were doing defensively is when we wanted to give our players a chance to play the game, to play fast, and we have some younger guys that are stepping in and playing more for us right now. And it's not what we know, it's what they know. And so even though we have a group of starters that can run a lot of what we did last year, we got a lot of backups and aren't ready for that. And you put 10 guys in from last year and 1 new guy, and he goes the wrong way, and all of a sudden you get gapped, where a crease is created, a seam is created. And so we just talked about simplifying a little bit more what we did, especially on 1st and 2nd down. They are a zone football team, and being a zone team, you want to play gap integrity football. It's kind of like playing option football. You got to play assignment oriented. I have a gap, and when you start moving and twisting and looping and blitzing, it only takes 1 guy to get out of his gap, and it becomes a problem. So it wasn't a philosophical change for our defense on the season as much as it was what we felt like we needed to do against that football team. And so I thought our football players did an excellent job of going out there and executing it. And when you look at the first screen pass, he didn't even have to break a tackle. I mean, when they threw it out there in the flat and he ran down the sideline, and we had a strong safety that went inside of a block and got pinned, and a corner who's supposed to be outside who went inside and got pinned at least. And that's why I talk about the fundamentals of football and assignments. And after that one, I thought our players really did a nice job of playing that fundamental assignment football, and that's why we didn't. That's why we were not as aggressive with what we did.
So it was just a 1-week thing then?
Yeah, it was what we felt like we needed to do last week against what they did. Yeah, we didn't take a philosophical. We didn't change our philosophy as a defensive football team. We did what we felt like we had to do against that football team. And when you watched a year ago, the best things we did was play fundamental, solid football with our front, and we didn't move them or twist them or loop them or blitz them, but everybody played their gap. And when we tried to do a lot of that against a zone team, that's when they hit some seams and hit some plays against us. And so that's why we did it for this game. And I thought it was brilliant, and I thought it worked, and I thought it was exactly what we needed to do as a defensive football team in that game. You look at the opening screen pass where we didn't even miss 2 tackles. We just got out-leveraged on both of them by 2 players. And then their other touchdown was when they had to drive 21 yards, I believe it was. They drove 21 yards to put the ball in the end zone. So I thought our defense really did a nice job, and I thought Coach Baker and the staff put together a really good scheme and what we needed to do against Lafayette.
Coach, the UTSA and Tech have not played a lot of times, but every time they play, it's chippy. seems like two sides that don't really particularly care for one another. Or what do you make of that? Is it a budding quote unquote interdivision rivalry?
I think a lot of these games are going to become that way, and I think that's the beauty of getting into Conference USA, is those rivalries are going to start with Southern Miss again, because we're going to play every year, with them being in the West Division, and with Rice, and with North Texas, and UTSA, and UTEP, and games that our fan base becomes familiar with. And rivalries begin because remember that year they kicked a field goal on the last play of the game? Remember that year when we threw that long touchdown pass with no time on the clock? I mean, it's the history that creates rivalries. And I think that's one of the things that's really going to start. I think UTSA does have a very good football team. We've had some very close football games with them the last couple of years. I mean, we were very fortunate to win last year in a ball game out here. I believe it was 27-20, in a good football game out here that was hard fought on both sides. And so I think anytime two good football teams get together, yeah, there's going to be some passion and some emotion and some excitement and enthusiasm. But I think this is all where those rivalries begin. And there's certainly one right now that has been brewing with UTSA.
Coach, going back to the defense, I look at the conference numbers. UTSA is toward the bottom in terms of sacks allowed, giving up about 3 per game. Do you guys feel like that's a point of attack that you'll really be able to take advantage of this?
No, like I said at the beginning, I think you can take the stats and really throw them out the window. I mean, this is one of those games. You look at them defensively in the conference and nationally, and it's the same thing. You say they're near the bottom. They've played 3 top 20 teams. They've played 3 top 20 teams when you look at Arizona, Kansas State, and Oklahoma State. All have really good football teams. And so I think their numbers are more a product of who they've played. If I got some of those creatures that those other teams have, when you watch the film, I'd feel a whole lot better about things. I mean, I know that we've got some good players in Dora and Vernon Butler, and Candy's a young guy that's coming along, and Aaron Brown's doing some really solid things and playing really well. But right now, I think it's probably their numbers are more. It's probably a bigger indication of who they've played rather than what type of football team they are. And all you need to do is go in there and put on film. They've got some angry players. I mean, they play the game angry. They play it violent. They play it physical. They are really a good football team. And even in their losses, like I said, they should have been up on Kansas State at halftime, 10-7. They went for it down there in a 4th down series right before half and didn't make it. Or they're up 10-7, drove the ball down the field. They're very they get against Oklahoma State and lose a lopsided game there, but I believe they had 4 turnovers in the first half in that football game. And I think so there's some variables that go into that, but the hard part is you don't know where their pocket's going to be. You don't know where their quarterback's going to be. And everything you do, you have to make sure you're fundamentally sound. You can't drop these blitzes that we're going to bring 5 people from this side because they could be in an unbalanced formation and they go fast and they line up and they're flipped over. And if you're blitzing from the wrong side, you're unsound. And then all of a sudden your players are looking at you and saying, just give us a chance. Just give us a chance to play. So it's not a big game that you're going to sit there and draw up all these huge schemes because of how fast they go, the tempo they go at, the unbalanced formations that they give you and what they do. So they do make you play pretty fundamental football.
Mentally, is it hard to prepare for a team that their record says one thing and like what you're saying, the film says an entirely different thing?
I think they'll have our players' attention when they put on the film. Our players have the opportunity to watch that film, and when you look at them on film, they're very fundamentally sound. And like I said, I think they may be the best defensive football team we've played. They definitely have the best front 4 that we've played to this point when you look at them as a whole. And I don't think anybody on either side of the ball, when you look at the problems they give you offensively and what they do fundamentally defensively, I don't think anybody on our football team will watch film and go, hey, they're 1-4. You can throw that record out the window. It doesn't mean anything. I mean, right now, it's the football team we're playing, and we've got to be focused on this week in this game. And if we learned anything early during the course of the season, we are going to play it one game at a time. We're not going to look past anybody, and 2014 means absolutely nothing for 2015. We're a completely different football team than we were a year ago.
When you play in a dome like you will on Saturday and you're not used to it, does that present any new challenges?
Last year we went to the Dome on Friday night. We're talking about going again on Friday night just to catch punts, to throw the ball. The lighting's a little bit different. You don't have you have a ceiling above you, so to speak. And so just trying to find the ball in the air sometimes can be a problem, and some of that. So we'll go get adjusted to that, but kind of helps keep the crowd noise in. It's a great venue. It's a beautiful facility. Like I said, they have the bowl game there at the end of every year. It's a first-class facility, and we're excited to have the opportunity to go play in it. But I want to take the team in there Friday night because I want our punt catchers to get under the ball and see it up in the air with a ceiling up above them. And the same thing with our receivers and defensive backs of being able to see the ball in the air.
Skip, before you got over there today, we were talking about some criticism about whether college football games are too long now. I'm just kind of curious your take on that, and also, a lot of people were talking about maybe a change in the NFL rule where you don't stop the clock after first down. What would you think about something like that?
I think if you look at the game itself, they're not very long. I think the commercials are longer than the game. When I look at TV timeouts, so to sit here and say, well, the game took 3 hours and 9 minutes and we want to get it under 3, to me the answer is not to shorten the game and lengthen the commercials. I don't think that's the answer to college football. I think we have a very healthy product right now. I think it's a very healthy product. I know they played with the clock a couple years ago and did some different things and put some different clock rules in. The ball now starts, the clock starts once you go out of bounds, and they set it, it'll then restart. So it's not the ball only stops on out of bounds plays until they set the ball or under the 2-minute mark. So I don't think the length of the game, I think the number of plays, everybody started speeding the game up, and I don't want to get into a philosophical debate, but when they took time away from the game, everybody started going to up-tempo offenses to get the same number of plays we got before. Before we used to huddle, everybody would huddle, and it's almost a lost art today for teams to get into a huddle. But everybody would huddle and go to the line, and at the end of the day, you ran about 70 plays. And then when they changed the clocks, those plays went down to about 55, so everybody speeded up their tempo to get back up to 70 plays because you've got a lot of guys on your team that work hard all week, that want to have the opportunity to play as well. And so I don't think taking numbers away is the answer right now, number of plays, by shortening the game. I think if we want to shorten it, we'll look at the length of commercials, but I do understand this is a business at times, and there are things that go along with that.
Maybe this is just me, but in the FIU game, I noticed the opposition kind of like drawing at Kenneth more than normal. And I don't know if maybe that has anything to do with him responding, like getting in his face and stuff after plays. When you go back and watch film, do you notice that at all, that maybe teams are trying to get in his head because of all his accolades?
I don't know if it's so much trying to get in their head. Teams are trying to stop Kenneth Dixon. He's on track to be the all-time touchdown scorer in college football history. Of everybody that's ever played the game, he's on track to score more touchdowns than anybody that's played the game. He's one of the number one rushers in this league. And all week, people watch film on him, and coaches are saying, that's what we got to stop. That's what we got to stop. That's who we're going to get. This is what we got to get after. We got to hit him. We got to run to the ball. We got to hunt in packs. We got to get. So no, I don't think they're going to get to the game and ask him if he wants to go have a Diet Coke after the game. It's an emotional game, but I don't think people are trying to get under Kenneth's skin. Because really, it doesn't happen very rarely. He's a passionate player and plays his game. Like I said, I think his frustration Saturday was not being able to play a bigger role in our success. He had 50-some yards, I believe it was, and they kept taking him away by loading the box and always having an extra number in there. And it set up huge things for us in the passing game and gave Jeff Driscoll an opportunity to run for a lot of yards. And that's one of the things in the mark of being a pretty good football team is you're not centered around one thing. It's not how Kenneth goes, we go. You want to take Kenneth away, we've got some weapons on the perimeter. We've got a quarterback that can run and throw. I think it has given us definitely some options. So I don't think it's so much about getting under Kenneth's skin as much as it is about stopping Kenneth.
You wish you could have gotten him involved in the passing game more?
No, because I needed him for protection with what they were doing. They're a pressure-oriented football team, and getting Kenneth out and getting Jeff hit in the process was not the answer. No, I like what we did. It just didn't feature Kenneth Dixon. It wasn't, with what they did, it gave Marcus Gaines an opportunity to catch a couple uncontested passes and run 70 yards without anybody within 5 yards of them the whole way there. That doesn't happen without Kenneth Dixon and trying to stop Kenneth. So I thought the offense coaches put together a great game plan, and when they loaded up, and it's not about, okay, how do we get Kenneth the ball as much as it was, how do we win? How do we win the football game? And that was the answer and what we tried to do.
Has Marcus gained more attention in terms of targets, plays toward him going forward after his big game?
No, this sounds funny, but we don't target Trent, we don't target Paul, we don't target Marcus, we don't target Carlos. Jeff's job is to drop back and read and take what a defense gives you. We don't have a play in our offense that says throw it to him. We don't have signals on the sideline that say, X, throw it to the X receiver. He drops back. If they roll coverage to the boundary, he's going to work the field. If they roll coverage to the field, he's going to work the boundary. So it's not, will he get some more plays? Yeah. If they start rolling to him, then Paul Turner will have a big day, or Trent Taylor will have it. It's whoever, and if it's man-to-man, it's kind of where the guy that wins and kind of where the extra safety takes Jeff. So I think Marcus played a great game. I love the guy, and he's made those plays in practice all year. And you kept saying, man, when he gets his opportunity, people are going to go, where's he been? But those that come to practice all the time can see the plays that he makes. So he'll get more opportunities, but he'll get them because he's going to be on the field more.
Coach, your philosophy is always next man up, and
Yep.
he was the next man up Saturday. But you got some guys that haven't had the opportunity to be the next man up. But
Yep.
And how good does that feel to have that on your roster?
That goes back to the earlier question of where are we as a football team. As you watch the young guys step up and you see a Marcus Gaines go into that arena and do it on the field, that's been pretty rewarding to see some of these guys step up, because we thought all week Carlos was going to be able to play, and I think Carlos was at about 90% on game day, but just felt like if I opened up, I might tear it. And I said, well, it's not worth it then. Then we'll play with Marcus. And it's not, we got to get him out on the field at all costs, because we do have some good players. And our backups, like I said, our backups are on scholarship too. They get the same meal plan and the same housing plan and the same tuition plan that the starters do. And so, at some time their point is going to come, and that's where I'm so proud of what all these guys are doing in the Dirty Dozen, what Cooper's doing on special teams, and Jared Kraft and Grogan and some of it, Russell Ferris. Those guys are all doing a really good job, and those are going to be the guys that are one snap away from being starters. And if something were to happen to a starter, one of these backups is going to have to step up. And I think some of these guys have really done a nice job, and I think there's other guys that are doing a nice job that just need the opportunity. It was great in that game to get all those guys the amount of work we did. When you look on the defense, you looked out there at one time, and Aaron Roberson and Trey Spencer are your two corners. You look out there, and it was Brandon Derman, Washington, Hogan were your three linebackers. You looked on your defensive front, it was Udarga, Jalen Ferguson, Courtney Wallace. It was, looked out there and I said, there's the future. There's the future of our football program out there on the field right now. All those young guys that are gaining experience, and so it's coming. We're a work in progress, but I like the progress we've made through the first third of the season.
So will Carlos play, and what about someone like Connor Smith, who we haven't really heard about in 4 weeks, and any update with Kirby?
Yeah, right now, no with Kirby and Connor. There's really no update at this point. And then with Carlos, I expect Carlos to play. I expect Carlos to practice Tuesday. Like I said, he put on his uniform, was out there on game day, and was trying to see if he could really open it up and run. Said he was at about 90%, and with the treatment and the things he's getting, I think he'll definitely be fine by Saturday, and I expect him to practice Tuesday. Carlos.
Are you surprised, I asked Trent this, that not a lot of the teams, at least Lafayette didn't, like bracket or double cover, saw a lot of single cover, especially with Carlos out. I think he even said he was kind of surprised.
Yeah, the thing about when you start double covering receivers, it's hard to load the box. You know, when you start double covering receivers, whether that's Trent, then you would have seen more of Kenneth Dixon getting involved in the passing game and us getting him out, because it's a little harder to blitz and do all that when you start double covering receivers. And so it's a decision that the defense has to make, and then we're going to make our adjustments accordingly. But if they would have done more than that to take away Trent, then you would have seen more of Kenneth Dixon involved in the passing game. We would not have had to keep him in as much to help try and protect the quarterback. So, I mean, there's going to be games where people are going to start to double him when you look at his success and what he's done, just like people they're trying to double cover Kenneth right now by loading the box and putting everybody up inside because of the success that he's done. But we're going to react to whatever a defense gives us.
As multiple as y'all become, is it just kind of a pick your poison if you're trying to defend you guys?
As long as we continue to execute, and that's where, I mean, you can't go in, you can't have one plan. You can't have one plan and say, okay, our plan is to give it to 28. As great as 28 is, that can't be the only thing you do, because you can take a single player away. As I've said before, they pay their coaches and they're experienced, and they get a chance to watch our film and put a game plan together. And if you're going to take Kenneth Dixon away, then what is your plan? What is your plan for what Jeff Driscoll's going to do on the backside of it? And as soon as you do that, what's your plan to take away the passing game? And when you do that, what's your plan to take away Trent or Paul or Carlos or Marcus Gaines or whoever that is? And that's what makes this team so much fun to coach, is the unselfish attitude that everybody has. Because today may be your day, and you may get 8 balls, and then next week you may catch 1 because of what a defense gives you. And that's where I've heard Kenneth say it a million times, Coach, whatever we got to do to win. I mean, if I got to pass pro, put me in. I mean, I'll pass pro. You know, if that's what I got to do to help this football team win, I'll pass pro. It's not about the goal of the individual. It's about the goal of the team. And that's the great attitude that we have on this team right now, and that's why it's such a fun team to coach, because they've given up their individuality for the good of this program and the good of this team, and that's why they're so much fun to be around.
One more question. We're almost halfway through the season. How much percentage-wise would you say that you've unveiled with the offense?
There's always a new wrinkle here or there. I don't know that you're ever at 100%, but we have a pretty extensive playbook and a pretty extensive vocabulary with all the different things that we can do. Now, you can't take it all into every game. It's a smorgasbord, as we tell our team, and we put it in spring and fall camp. And you put it all in, and then when you get into the season, you go, okay, remember this one? It's like, oh, digging that, knock the mothballs off that. I remember that from way back in spring. I mean, but you try and put, whether it's different motions, shifts, you know, things like that, but there's always a little wrinkle that you can add, and I think you have to be able to do that. You can't go into a game and you can't have 3 running plays and say we're going to go through the season with that, because people can defend you. So you've got to be able to have wrinkles to attack different things, but a large majority of it, I mean, I think the staples obviously are all in. I mean, the staples are in by the time you get to the first game. But at this point, I don't know, we've probably seen the staples, probably about 75% of it.